This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
What is up? Paul Catalina, Pierre Noujaim, here on a lovely Thursday in Waco, Texas, and what I'm hoping is a lovely Thursday in Minneapolis. Or is it a frosted, frozen hellscape?
Yeah, that's what it's been pretty much for the last few days. It's better today. We have a heat wave. I think we're in the 20s today, so that's at least a step in the right direction.
Listen. Yeah, look, yeah. You know what? Bust out the Speedo.
Yeah.
Pierre, it's time to get to the beach.
I'm looking at the hot tub outside right now, and I said, do I dare jump in there right now? Well, it's still 25. I just might go crazy later today.
It's like Sweden, Jerry. Sweden.
Exactly like that. 100%.
Yeah, we probably need to do a segment called the Seinfeld quote of the day, teach a life lesson out of it.
100%. I would be all for it.
Yeah. You and I've probably watched the show through every episode about maybe 7 times, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm not ashamed. And I'll probably watch it 70 more before I die, if not more.
I think I've definitely watched them more than 7 times. I think I've definitely gone through them. The first 3 seasons are they all seem to kind of run along the same timeline in a way.
Yeah.
But after that, I can distinctly tell you seasons 4 through 9, 100%.
Yeah. Once society open-armed accepted them, about season 4. But so I watched the other day the episode where George pretends to be a communist.
Yes.
And the Yankees send him down to Cuba to talk to Castro.
Correct.
And Castro and Steinbrenner are that's the same bit. And Castro says something that I said watching it the other day. This is a couple months ago because it was right before Christmas party season. And Castro at the end is I don't know if I'd like to go to a party because ultimately you have to eat standing up. And I don't like to do that. And then I'm at different Christmas parties and you're sitting there eating standing up. And I'd never thought about, and I have to thank Larry David for this, how annoying eating standing up is. When we go to we will be, and sadly, Pierre, we'll get to this. You will not be joining us in New Orleans now. I was so hoping for it, buddy.
Yeah.
For us to do this in the same room would have been, it would have been the best thing that's ever happened.
It would have been incredible.
Yeah. So anyway, but Garrett can attest to this, having been to the last 3. This will be your 4th?
This will be my 3rd.
There's 3rd.
Yeah, my 3rd.
The last 2 Super Bowls and now the 3rd. We will be at the media party on Tuesday night. And whenever there is a table open, there's a dash to it. There's a dash to it so you can put your food down because sometimes, last year in Vegas was really cool. If it had not been the one day it rained in Vegas was while we were there, it was just drizzling a little. It wasn't rain, but it was annoying enough to where you're let's get inside. They had all these really interesting food trucks out there, although some of them were maybe a little too interesting, especially for a guy like Garrett who grew up in Oglesby, Texas.
Yeah, there's not much variety out there.
Yeah. So you walk up and oh, what is this? And they're it's some Korean thing with spikes on it. It's delicious. He's the hell with that. No, I don't this is Las Vegas. It's not Korea. I'm not there's other things I can eat. But you go inside and the minute you get indoors, when we got to the 2nd floor, which is Old World Vegas, Sinatra Vegas, Rat Pack Vegas, Elvis Vegas, the coolest. It
was awesome.
It was amazing. They had mostly Italian food, but none of it was finger food. It was meatballs, which are only finger food when you're 2 years old. And they're so you've got to, go and sit down and eat it. Because if you're trying to eat a meatball standing up, and believe me, as a person who actually looks like a meatball standing up, it's hard to do. So sure. By the way, I should have said that one yesterday when I was on my run about that. But
I'm excited for Garrett. I'm excited for Garrett, by the way, because from what I hear, and I've only done 2 Super Bowls. One was here in Minneapolis that you were at, Paul, was 7 years ago. It was a frozen tundra. And the other one was Super Bowl 50 in the Bay Area. It was the Broncos Panthers Super Bowl.
Yep.
And from what I hear, the two places to be for the Super Bowl, from the people I talked to, and some people maybe might have a differing opinion out there, but the people I talked to say there are two places for the Super Bowl, and there's everybody else. And those two places are Miami and New Orleans.
Oh, Miami, no. I used to think that too. 2020 with Miami, you could not have put forth less of an effort on hosting an event.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It was. Look, you've got to be in the Radio Row all day long, right? And they ran out of bottled water.
How does that happen?
And also this was 2020, so this is like, even in Miami, this is before you have like water bottle filling stations at every water fountain. They're just normal water fountains. So nobody was doing that. So like the only way that we can get water is if you guys bring it to us. And so you'd tell them and they'd be like, well, there's Mountain Dew. Like, I don't want Mountain Dew. Like, it didn't say on the third day God made Mountain Dew,
That sounds like the hospitality has gone downhill. That they've hosted it so many times, they're just like,
Look, Miami in general as a city is not hospitable.
Yeah,
it's not. Like,
no,
they're very elitist. And look, it's a beautiful place that's got a lot of cool stuff to do.
Right.
I am a little bit jaded because I grew up in a different part of Florida. And I lived in 3 different parts of Florida. I lived in Fort Myers, I lived in Tampa, I lived in Tallahassee. There's not if there's a through line about what all the rest of Florida, which is a pretty darn big state, and has in common, because the one thing that's crazy about Florida is as you go from town to town, things are similar, but like a little bit different. Texas, it's not like that. Texas, like the big cities are all different, but the small places are almost all the same.
Pretty much.
And I'm not trying to knock, but there's not a difference between Mart and Crawford. Like, there's not. Like, they're the same. Like, they're the exact. Well, I mean, maybe the diversity of the population. But
that was where I was thinking.
Yeah.
Is it McGregor or Crawford that has the space stuff? McGregor, right?
McGregor, and that jagweed has been just turning it up lately. Just turning it up. Shaking oh my God, I want to say it so bad. Shaking the walls. Shaking the mother effing walls.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for progress. I love space, and I hope that we get to explore it. Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever you want to say wise, at some point in the future. I do not like that I can be taking a dump and then have to do this.
Yeah. The hand of God coming down on you.
I have a little like a window next to my toilet. My bidet toilet, by the way.
That's right.
And that's where the little air freshener bottle is. So, a couple weeks ago, I'm just in there in the morning. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning. Just having and I know this is gross to talk about, but having my morning constitutional.
Yeah.
And the walls start to shake, and it shook so much that the air freshener fell off the wall, like the thing. I was like, God, Elon, would you stop?
The unintended consequences of progress, I suppose.
I guess. I don't know. Jeez. So, and it just, it made me so mad. It made me so mad. Anyhow, that's all to say. Florida is very different place to place to go. Everybody, they all kind of, it's very unique. Like, there's nothing similar between Orlando and Miami. There's nothing really similar between Orlando and Tampa. There's nothing. Tampa and Jacksonville are different. Orlando and Tallahassee are different. Tallahassee and Gainesville are, outside of both having big college towns, part of the reason the rivalry works is the towns are very different. Tallahassee is nice, and Gainesville is a dirty, disgusting hole. So No, Tallahassee has the Capitol. Gainesville, has a Costco, I'm told.
Okay.
So,
That's good.
that's good for them. But yeah, I mean, it's just everything's different. Pensacola and Miami, outside of having a beach, have nothing in common. The population is different. The people are different. Pensacola is essentially in Alabama. Miami is essentially in Cuba. It's two completely different worlds. But what all those towns have in common is they don't think that the world revolves around the city of Miami. And what Miami doesn't have in common with all those towns is they do. Yeah. And so when you grow up in Florida, you live in Florida, there are a lot of things that happen. You're like, wait a minute. Why the hell do I have a hotel tax in Sarasota now? And they're like, oh, well, they're building an aquarium in Miami. You're like, well, who gives a shit about that?
Yeah.
I don't live there. And if you're in Pensacola, you're like 9 hours away at best driving to go see a fish in a cage. I don't think that people are going to do that. So they tried. The reason that it took so long for the Marlins to get a new stadium was they tried every year for about 15 years to get the rest of the state to pay for the stadium. Right. And when you got north of about Homestead, no one cared. They're like, no, no. Why would I? If you live in Jacksonville, you're a Braves fan. Why would you want to? Why? Chipper Jones is from there. Am I going to insult Chipper Jones by paying my taxes or having Chipper Jones taxes go to a Marlins stadium? No, I will not.
Kind of feels similar in a way to California with LA. I mean, LA kind of
the sister cities.
It feels it has some, even though California's got a ton of big cities to offer, San Francisco and San Jose and San Diego and things of that nature. But it reminds me a little bit of LA in that sense, for sure. Same idea, same glitz, same stuck up behavior. No, I totally get it. Totally get it.
So that's the thing about Miami. Here's the thing that separates New Orleans from Miami. New Orleans is all about Miami's a party city. Don't get me wrong, but New Orleans, Miami's parties are, because they are snobby, they're exclusive. It's all about oh, hey, did you see pit bulls in there? Ooh, all right. It's $40 to get in the door. You don't even get a free drink with that. It's $40 to walk into a bar that didn't spend $200 on 4 beers. Right. So it's ridiculous. New Orleans is the exact opposite. New Orleans is having a party, and the party's only good if everybody comes.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It does not your walk of life, your religion, your political party, your race,
have a good time.
It has truly always been a place. Now, there's a lot of scary things that happen in New Orleans historically. I've been on a ghost tour. It'll blow your hair back, man. Just the stories that people tell of why there are ghosts, of which there aren't ghosts. But Garrett disagrees with me there.
I do.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Gary and I wholeheartedly disagree on I love going on ghost tours because I love seeing true believers tell me there's ghosts, and I'll be like, okay, all right. All right. Garrett won't go on them because he's a true believer. So I don't want to see I don't want to see a friggin' ghost. Yeah. But New Orleans has this really just rich history through especially of America. The entirety of American history has been played out in New Orleans, right?
Sure.
From the very beginning because of the port. So there's all these wild and crazy things that have happened there. And so even in the worst of times, New Orleans has still been a place that's pretty, hey, this is a party city. It's a port town, and everybody's invited, and you've got to try this food. Here's a drink, here's some food, have a good time. That's the and so when they're hosting something, they just go sugar. I've been to Super Bowl, Sugar Bowls there, maybe one other thing. And
NCAA tournament, maybe.
NCAA, yeah. So I've been there a lot. For work. I've also been there for and this is how it is. For work, for pleasure, whatever you're going to do, you walk into a hotel in New Orleans and you're like, hey, you show them on your phone, I heard about this po' boy place. They'll be like, that place is good, but let me call my cousin. He's at this one, and he'll get you ahead in the line. And you're like, hey, thanks, here's $20. That's why I did it. They're like that. They're to me, they're kind of like the original Vegas, but They don't do it Vegas does it because it's transactional. New Orleans does it because it's cultural. Like,
right.
Oh, let me tell you, here's where you got to go.
Still, in my opinion, and just my opinion, best food city in America still.
There's
best food city in America.
It's it's like. If there were there's some great food cities in America. Chicago's great. New York's great. Miami's a great food city.
Has a great, 100%.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Minneapolis is a great food city. Really. At least for things like, look, it's one of the best sushi cities in America. I'll tell you that right now.
It does have a lot. I think it has like more sushi restaurants per capita. Like it's like second behind New York or something like that.
Yeah, you got to go to the one that I went to when I was there in White Bear Lake, man. You got to go.
You got to give me the name of it.
I'll get the name of it. Yeah. It's got an amazing story to it too. But like New Orleans, like when you're talking about food cities in America and the race, it is like Michael Phelps with the Pawnee porpoises. Like they're just going to win that. Like there's going to be somebody like, oh, look, I saw the back of his foot. Yeah. Well, congratulations, New York, but sorry.
No. And for me too, as somebody who could eat seafood for every meal, I mean, New Orleans is a place that's just tailor-made for me. I don't even like bother having these conversations with people anymore because it's for anybody who says, nah, the food's not that good there. It's like, well, you're just a despicable human being with horrible taste then, aren't you? Like it's the best food city in America. I don't even think it's close.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not. So we're looking forward. We'll be there in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Plane tickets are booked. Airbnb's booked. Smokey booked our data line today. So there's no going back.
I will be in Vegas while you guys are in New Orleans, though. So I will be spending the Super Bowl in Las Vegas where you were last year.
Which is a great place to be during the Super Bowl, I'll tell you. Even if Super Bowl wasn't there. I was kind of glad we left when we did, though, because that last day of walking to when we were walking out of Radio Row and the people were walking to the NFL experience, it was like, oh, I'm kind of glad that we're not, like, this didn't last another day. Like, this is.
Yeah. Whew. Yeah, it's not an easy place to walk around, especially it's not built for like that many crowds to just walk through all these places. You will get bottlenecked up there and wait forever just to get through a crowd. It's awful.
Yeah. So it's, Vegas did a wonderful job. Wonderful job of hosting. I can't wait. It'll be back there for sure.
Oh,
because
no doubt.
Here's the thing, it's an easy place to do it because there's hotels. Like 100%. That's the biggest thing. There's hotels. The biggest problem that like when Indianapolis got the Super Bowl, the thing that they had to do was build more hotels, downtown,
Right.
So Minneapolis built more hotels.
100% they did.
Downtown. So,
that's why we have the Four Seasons downtown now. Nice hotel. Real nice.
Yeah. Thanks to the NFL for that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to get this one out of the way first before we get into NFL playoffs, and then we'll end with Notre Dame and Ohio State. Since we're now just on the Triple Option channel, we don't really have the search metrics the same way that 365 Sports did. So I can do this show however the hell I want now, right? Don't you feel free, Garrett?
Liberation, man.
Yeah, this is like we're on a beach in France. Like we're just right now letting it all hang out.
Right.
So we can do whatever we want. We can put the show in whatever order. It'll get searched how it gets searched. Like we're kind of starting from scratch. We have a nice lead with the subscribers we have, but we can reform this in the image that we want it to be, Pierre, which includes you. So, anyway, Bob Uecker, and I have this is a tough story for me to tell today because it really just bums me out even more. Bob Uecker passed away at the age of 90. In my opinion, he was my favorite baseball announcer of all time. And there will never be, I love listening to Vin Scully. I mean, Vin Scully's number 2 to me because he was so good. There's been a lot that I love to listen to. But nobody as unique as Bob Uecker because he was essentially a comedian doing it. And so I had a special place in my heart for him. And about a decade ago, maybe a little less, but the Brewers were coming in to play the Rangers in a 3-game series. So I called John Blake. Smokey was, in fact, out of town. And so I called John Blake and said, hey, can I come and do the show up there? Because I would really love to meet Bob Uecker. And the visiting booth is usually right now, like there's one or two booths that they always put us in. It's right there where they would put us to do the show. So he's like, absolutely, come on up. Yeah, Bob's a great guy. You can go and he'll probably let you sit in the broadcast with him. And I was like, my heart came out of my chest. I was so like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's great. That's great. So maybe he'll come, like if you get the right time, if it's before his game prep, he can come in and do an interview with you. And I'm just like, oh, sweet Jesus, thank you. Oh my God. Oh, this is great. Like, dreams really do come true. And so I get there and I walk into their booth and I was like, hey, my name's Paul Catalina. I'm right next door. I'm doing my show. I'm sure you guys get this all the time. They're like, you want to meet Bob, don't you? I said, yeah, I do. I'd love to meet Bob. And it was just the producer in there and like one of the two producers that were in there. And I said, yeah, I really would love to meet him. I mean, he's a hero of mine. He's like, yeah. And then the guy's like, oh, he's the best. He's everybody's hero. Everybody loves Bob. I have terrible news for you. And I was like, what's that? He's like, well, Bob's coming tomorrow because he had like a family situation. Like somebody in his family had it like somebody had like a thing. And he's like, he had to be at this thing. So tonight, these guys are doing the game. And then Bob will be here tomorrow. And then we go like from here, we go to Houston and then, there. So he's going to meet us tomorrow. And I was like, well, I can't come tomorrow. I can't today. We had a remote the next day that, like, I even thought about, like, what if I call and say, like, hey, can you tell them, like, explain the situation. I'll explain the situation to them, and then we'll just do the remote next week when Smokey's back and everybody's happy. And then I realized who the salesperson who sold it was, and I knew that wasn't going to happen. Because I was like, listen, and like I remember like thinking like I'm rehearsing in my head like, okay, this guy's like just be a human being. Like, hey, tomorrow he can come back and interview his idol, right. And I wouldn't have even like it wouldn't even been but nope, no. So I had to go back and do it. That was one of the moments where I thought like maybe I need to not be here, but. There's a lot of people rating on my dreams, but look, Mr. Belvedere, major league, especially the first major league, is one of the most purely brilliant comedic performances from a side character ever, who was not really an actor. I mean, Bob Uecker's like everybody can be an actor if you act, but like, the way that they wrote it for him and the way that he was able to put his spin on it was just legendary. And he was 90 years old. I know that we don't get forever with people, but it did bum me out that Bob Uecker left this mortal coil before I got a chance to meet him. And I'm very glad that Milwaukee had a great year last year, and I'm sure everybody saw in the locker room where he was chugging beer still at 90 years old and celebrating with them and all that stuff. So that was great. But I am a little extra sad because that opportunity passed me by and I'll never get it now.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's certainly a sad day, not just in the world of sports, but in the world of entertainment, really. I mean, everybody knows Bob Uecker. Like you said, everybody loves Bob Uecker. A man by the name of Jeff Levering, who was a year ahead of me in high school, is now he does radio and TV play-by-play for the Milwaukee Brewers. Has been doing it for the last 7-8 years. And I know Jeff, I see him every time he comes to town when the Brewers come and play the Twins. And he would tell me all the time, Bob was just the sweetest guy. When Jeff had his son, his first child, he's got pictures of his kid with Bob in the booth. And Bob's got him like on his knee and just said he's just the sweetest man and a great guy. And it's I'm sure I haven't spoken with Jeff today yet, but I'm sure he's going through it a little bit, as is the entire Brewers family. But it's certainly a big loss. It's a very big loss for such a legendary voice. And like you said it perfectly. We don't get forever with people, but it's a tough one. It's a tough one today, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I walked right in and I remember thinking like, oh yeah, and he was, the way it was going was, oh yeah, I'm sure he'll do it. Like I was waiting for those things. Like he's just gotta, he's down in the clubhouse right now. He'll be back up as soon as he comes back up, just pop back in and he'll come in, he's done this 100 years. He doesn't need, 6 hours of prep like the young guys do. He can just walk in and what's the lineup? And I've watched I watched several different Norm Macdonald and Artie Lang clips today telling Bob Uecker stories on either Stern or Letterman because they were very good friends with him. And I suggest you go and look that up because they are hilarious stories. And at every turn, they have to stop. Like, they want to tell more, but they have to stop because they're like, I can't tell this story, but it's too good. Right. It's too good. I promised you a story last week, and I haven't delivered on that yet.
You promised me an Al Davis story or two. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
we'll have to follow up with that at some point.
I do have to follow up with that.
Yeah.
You know how, like, it was like 10 minutes after the show was over last Thursday, and Emery just goes, so we got to hear the story or what?
Well, it's a story made for off camera from what it sounds like. That's for sure.
Yeah. The only way I would let it be told on camera is if the person who told it was here and decided to tell it.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. I will say this. No one can get offended because everybody involved in the story is dead. But,
fantastic. That's good. That's
good. But I don't want to say it because the person who told it's like, I did say the person who told it to me on the air. So I don't want to say the story and then be like, that was kind of an us thing. But if he was here, I would be like, can you please tell that story?
Yes.
Like, can you please tell that story? Like, honestly, the world needs to know that story.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those
clear
things.
Some things up.
Yeah. It's a thing that, I mean, it's a thing.
Can't wait to hear it now.
It's a thing. Anyway, I will deliver on that next week. When we come back, we're going to start with the NFL playoffs. We'll also get into an Ed Werder tweet about Dion and the Cowboys, which I'll just say, don't just talk about it, Jerry. Be about it. You got to stop. You got to stop teasing the Cowboy fans. You know, they've got to stop being teased. If you're going to do something crazy, do something crazy. Just do it and see how it works. No season ends in the Super Bowl. We might as well have fun. That's all I'm saying. If it's going to end in the first round of the playoffs every year, let's have some fun. You know, maybe let's try something different because that would be something different. Anyway, when we come back, we'll talk about the NFL playoffs, why Pierre doesn't get to travel with the Vikings now, and why life is not fair. This is 365 Sports. Actually, this is the Triple Option on its own damn channel.
Looking for a wheeled cooler? This is the Arctic 52-quart ultralight wheeled cooler. I hauled it on a deck, I hauled it downstairs, upstairs, grass, gravel, sandy road, mud puddles, the whole bit. And I gotta say, it is pretty darn tough. I really do like the wheels and the tow handle. It's easy to hold on to, even when full. It made it 6 full days with ice present, still keeping cool enough temperatures to keep drinks cold. This is a great cooler. And if you're looking for a new wheeled cooler that tows really nicely, this is a great option.
We are super excited for the launch of our Swing Juice polos. The number one thing when we were designing this polo was to find the best quality fabric. I wanted it to be functional, wanted it to be performance-based, and something that personally that I would wear. It's made with a bamboo charcoal infused micropolyester, UV protection of 50 plus. It's naturally odor resistant. It's a quick dry performance fabric and it's very easy care. Currently, these polos are available at swingjuice.com. Can't wait for you to try them out. Guarantee you're gonna love them.
365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
You know, a couple weeks ago, I was, when I knew that the Vikings would probably be, in a deep run in the playoff, I thought, I'm going to get to see Pierre. That's going to be awesome. They'll probably bring the whole crew down there because when you do news in a city where there's a championship, that's the only time in the news business anymore where the budget gets hey, let's open it up. This is our chance this is the chance to make the ratings for the next year. This is how we build on it. This is how we improve. This is those are the events that happen. That you have
Fox this year. Game was on Fox this year. Totally different story. Yep.
Yeah, you have all these things. Yeah, you've got to promote it because it's on your actual station. Everybody has to watch it on you. So you have to be out in front. So everybody, I remember when it was in Dallas, everybody, you just saw everybody. Yeah. Everybody was there because you have to take the opportunities of these moments when you never know when it's going to happen, right? And that was just because it was in Dallas. But when a team is playing in it, that's when the money bags get opened. And it's not a thing that happens in the media business often. You can tell them hey, you can do this all the time. We can go cover events and no.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then when it happens, suddenly you're oh, so we do have money in the budget. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. So they go every news station in a city will be there. There's media night, which it is now, which I haven't been to since they changed it, but it's just a ridiculous circus. But when you would go, the thing you'd have a problem with was, you got to try to get content for it that's you and the people you're talking to. So I'll just give an example of one time. I can't remember where I was, but it's one of the Patriots ones, maybe Indianapolis. But so I'm at media day of the Patriots. I'm trying to you try to go to the podiums and get Gronk and Brady. You can't. There's just a wall. So what you do is you make a list of who's on this team that has a connection to the market. So I was I've got, Josh Boyce was from Copper's Cove and he was on the Patriots, although he was not on the he probably was not going to be on the active roster for the game. He was there, he wasn't going to be active for the game, but he was there and he played in some games. And so I was I know Josh, I'll go talk to Josh. Well, what I didn't realize is that every newspaper, website, everybody in Boston was trying to get as much stuff as they could. And so I go over to Josh Boyce, a guy who's not even going to be active, and I had to wait 15 minutes to talk to him. And it's just because there's just all these people there, Yeah. Look, at the Super Bowl in Dallas, one of the few people that we wanted to talk to for sure was Steelers punter at the time, Daniel Sepulveda, because he was the punter at Baylor right before that. Well, what I didn't realize about Daniel Sepulveda is he was one of the 4 bilingual players in this game, and every Spanish media outlet that came to this thing was going to want to talk to him. So I had to sit there and listen. And then the other thing is, because I speak a little Spanish, I'm going to ask him a lot of these same questions in English, and I'm going to feel like an idiot. But I mean, we were going to talk about Baylor. And so, I'll tell you, the only time it's ever worked out for me is, so Aaron Ross, who played defensive back for the Giants.
Yeah.
He's married to Sonia Richards-Ross.
Yep.
Legendary American hero Olympian.
Played at Texas. I interviewed Sonia one time when she was training in Waco, actually. She is an absolutely delightful woman. She really is.
Yeah, she's they're like one of the coolest sports couples ever.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Texas Sports Hall of Famer Sonia Richards-Ross. I believe. Yes.
Absolutely. So, but Aaron's from East Texas, and he and Smokey are very good friends. Yeah. As a matter of fact, there was a period in Aaron's life where Smokey was kind of a confidant for him. Sure. And so Smokey said, "Look, go up to Aaron Ross, tell him it's for me, and you'll get as much time as he can possibly give you." So I go up to Aaron Ross and I say, hey, I'm Paul. I'm with Smokey. He texted you. And he's like, yeah, I got you. He's like, let me just talk to this guy real quick. And it was like a Spanish news station in New York. And the guy keeps asking questions. And finally he goes, listen, brother, I appreciate all of it, but you got to get the, he's like, you got to get the F out because I promised my man here I'd talk to him and you're not him. And I was like, and again, this is the first time we've ever met.
Wow.
And it's because of his relationship with Smokey. Yeah. And so I get back on the bus and Smokey calls and I'm like, and he goes, did you get Aaron Ross? I was like, yeah, I got like 12 minutes with him. He's like, that's a long time. I was like, yeah, right at the end. He just told a guy to go away so he could talk to me. And I was like, he goes, I said, yeah, I feel like I feel seen for the first time in my life. And like
100%. 100% you do.
So even though he was a New York Giant and a Texas Longhorn, two things I find morally reprehensible.
Right.
I would lay down in traffic for Aaron Ross because of that. Like
what a beauty.
It was, yeah. And you hear so many stories about guys being dicks. That like when you like encounter, and sometimes it's true. Like sometimes it's just, oh, that one time you caught him at the wrong time. He was mean to you. No, he's not like that. That's not how it is. But you do on Super Bowl Media Day, like half the people are jerks to you, like because they don't want to be there. It's a thing they don't normally have to do. And so you go through it and it's a slog. And then you have that like one moment that's like, oh, Aaron Ross, thank God you exist.
And that includes, I will tell this very brief story, especially with the first Super Bowl I ever went to, Super Bowl 50, like I said, back in the Bay Area. And one of the main reasons why I did not approach Dan Marino is because I have heard stories, and I think that includes one story from Paul in particular. And I said, I cannot go up to Dan Marino and have Dan Marino ruin Dan Marino for me. I just can't do it. I absolutely cannot do it. And that's why I stayed away from Dan Marino, because if Dan Marino was a jerk to me for whatever reason, I can't tell you just how absolutely devastated I would be. It would just be pure devastation for me and something I probably couldn't handle. I couldn't handle it. So that's why I never approached him.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the actual NFL playoffs, Pierre. Yeah. I'm curious as to what happened to the new Sam Darnold that we'd seen.
Did
the Lions break him?
You know, it's weird because after that, if you go back a week before to the Green Bay game, if it wasn't for the absolute stellar seasons that Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are having, if you looked at the body of work, save for one game in Jacksonville, Sam Darnold would be talked about as an MVP candidate, especially if you go back to the end and you look at the numbers of the way he played that game against Green Bay, because Green Bay, I think, closed as a road favorite in Minnesota in Week 17, and Minnesota just absolutely, they kind of let him back in the game late in the game, but that game wasn't close for three and a half quarters. So that was the moment where I felt, because all season long, especially on our Vikings Now podcast at Fox 9, all season long, I have gotten bombarded and berated by Vikings fans when I have said I'm still just a little too hesitant with Sam Darnold. I'm not ready for him to fully earn my trust yet. And then the Green Bay game happened, and I was like, okay, I'm on board here. I think we've got a brand new Sam Darnold. In that game, however, the Green Bay game, there were a handful of throws that he airmailed. There were a few throws that just weren't on target. And then you saw it in the Detroit game, and I thought to myself, it's a high-stakes game. He didn't play well. The whole rhythm and timing of the offense just didn't look right in that game. Maybe it was just one of those games. And then you saw it again. Granted, he was under duress. He was sacked, 9 times in the game against the Rams? But I would say a solid 3 or 4 of those instances, he held on to the ball too long. I understand you don't want to turn the ball over, but there were critical times in that game where you just could not take sacks, and he took them. So Sam Darnold kind of turned into a pumpkin, I guess, over the last couple of weeks. But, I'm in agreement with Kevin O'Connell, especially after the game. He said, I don't think this erases the entire body of work from what we saw with Sam Darnold this season, because we saw a new guy in a new system, and he completely turned his career around. I'm not ready to just completely dismiss him over the last 2 games that he played, but it's unfortunate that the last 2 games that he played were bad timing because it cost him the season.
Yeah, they are, and it cost them probably a little money, but here's the silver lining is Now the Vikings can just say, okay, we drafted J.J. McCarthy for a reason, which I think they were going to do anyway. But now they don't have maybe they just don't have the PR backlash that they have to do, especially, when Sam Darnold walks. And here's the thing. If I'm Sam Darnold, I'm not going back to the Vikings money-wise, because they've got J.J. McCarthy waiting in the wings. It would essentially just probably be the franchise deal they're going to give me for a year, which maybe I would do. But if you want that long-term contract, that big contract that even though he struggled down the stretch, there's only 2 quarterbacks that are going in the first round. And after those 2 guys are gone, which will be in the first, 4 to 5 picks, maybe even in the first 2.
Yeah.
You're like the teams that are at pick 8, like the Raiders, or at pick 3, like the Giants, or, there's, probably I'm leaving somebody out, but I would say the Giants, Raiders in particular could probably give him a little bit more money, even in a short 2-year deal, 2 to 3 year deal that he would get to go back to Minnesota, because they drafted J.J. McCarthy for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, Cleveland's another interesting spot, because if they draft Travis Hunter, what does Cleveland do at quarterback? I think that's another interesting spot as well. But here's the reason why I'm actually going to disagree with you a little bit on Sam Darnold returning to the Vikings. And I think financially it won't make sense for him. And I think that's where it will ultimately end up, where those 2 parties part ways. But if I'm Sam Darnold, I'm thinking to myself, I just had the best season of my career. And in this offense with Kevin O'Connell, he brought out things in me that I have not been able to unlock my entire career. And I have to really take that into consideration in terms of what I want my career to look like after this season. Unless Matthew Stafford retires and there's suddenly a quarterback opening in LA where you have the same type of offense with Sean McVay, the San Francisco 49ers are going to be set with Brock Purdy. He's not going to go back there. He's not going to go to LA if Matthew Stafford wants to continue his career. If you're looking for a similar type offense with a similar structure, the Shanahan, the McVays, the O'Connells, it's not really out there right now for him. So that's where I'm starting to wonder if Sam Darnold says, maybe I will take a little bit of a discount to come back, but you have to have 2 parties here, because the Vikings signed Daniel Jones for a reason. Daniel Jones is not exactly your long-term solution, in my opinion, to anything. However, he is an affordable backup if you want to have somebody backing up J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy, you remember, had not 1, but 2 surgeries on his meniscus. 2. So I'm not fully ready to hand over the entire franchise to J.J. McCarthy until he can prove something to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, but you also have to, you used a first-round draft pick on him. I think it's responsible to clear the path. And you've got Kevin O'Connell, who's a QB guru. I think it'll mostly be fine.
But here's the funny part of this whole situation with the Minnesota Vikings that makes it even more interesting. The Vikings only have 3 total draft picks in 2025, 1 first rounder and 2 fifth rounders. Would you entertain a scenario? Let's be honest. J.J. McCarthy, if he was coming out this year, would probably be the number 1 quarterback in this year's draft class, I would say.
Yeah,
maybe 2 behind Cam Ward, maybe.
I still think Shadur is the number 1, but yeah. So,
but either way, would you entertain the notion of trading J.J. McCarthy, re-signing Sam Darnold, and recouping draft capital to restock, your stable, so to speak, in terms of? I'm not saying that's what the Vikings are entertaining, and I highly doubt that would be a situation that they would entertain. But I think it's something that they might have to consider when you look at their draft stock and in terms of building this team. They do have a lot of money in free agency, and that's where this team is going to be constructed. I think it's going to be well more through free agency than the draft. But I think that's a situation where if somebody calls and makes an enticing offer, I think you should listen. I think you would have to listen.
Yeah, I think you would. And here's the thing though. They've got the cheat code right now because they've got a lot built around. Clearly, with the wide receivers are good, the tight ends are good, the offensive line's really good. Every running back they have is on a 1-year deal, but I think they can figure that out. Cam Akers, I think, will probably be back because Kevin O'Connell loves the guy.
Yep.
And then the defense is good. Like, you've kind of got it built. So, like, right now, with a quarterback in the rookie contract,
Right.
Right.
And they have a ton, like I said, they have a ton of cap space. They have over $60 million from what I understand. They have 24 free agents, though. They're going to have to replace their entire secondary, right? Their entire secondary are free agents. So there's a lot of holes that are going to need to be filled via free agency. And yeah, you're right. If you have a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal and you want to groom him along, and that's an area where you don't have to spend a lot of money at quarterback, that's certainly a welcome sight for your franchise. So, yeah, I don't really see a scenario in which Sam Darnold does return. I do think they will go with J.J. McCarthy, but crazier things have happened.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, again, they don't have many draft picks, and that's the only way they can recruit that is to trade people, and he's the one you would think would be the most tradable, especially given the fact that because they have $60 million or whatever it is in cap, like you said, in cap space, it's not like you have to move somebody like a corner because you have 3 of them. You can just keep the guys that you have and not mess with it, and then roll that into, a couple of key free agency signings, your draft class, and book the savings for next year. So all that can happen. Okay, as of right now, what do you think? What is your Super Bowl?
Wow. Geez. As of right now, I want to pick against the Chiefs because I just feel like Buffalo and Baltimore, it feels like whoever wins that game, I feel like is ready to make that next leap, but it's hard for me to pick against the Chiefs now that they have home field advantage. So I am going to be boring, and I'm going to say the Chiefs and the Lions. I think it will be the Chiefs and the Lions in the big game, mainly because with Philadelphia, 3 weeks ago, I would have picked the Eagles if you had asked me. But there's something right now with the Eagles, the injury to Nakobe Dean is big. There's something about the Eagles offense. This is a team that's led by their defense, really. Offensively, they got all the pieces in the world, but defense is really leading this team. But as banged up as Detroit is, I just don't know who's going to slow down that offense. I just don't know. The Eagles might, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs and the Lions.
Yeah, I'm going to say Ravens and Lions.
I could see it.
I'm going to say Ravens and Lions. Although the Chiefs are back at full strength, and that means there's going to be a lot like now that Hollywood Brown is back, and they've got
great offensive line too. That's a great offensive line.
Pacheco is back. He wasn't there earlier in the season. They finally, were able to let go of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was who was kind of done there. Yeah. They've made it work with the wide receivers they had all year long. The defense is super elite. Chris Jones will be healthy this week. That makes a huge difference. They lost 2 games this year. One to Buffalo, and the only game they lost in which they tried this year. Yeah. And then one in which I can tell you they didn't try with extreme prejudice because they would rather had Bo Nix in the playoffs than Joe Burrow.
Correct.
You'll never convince me of the hey guys, I know A+ effort to make sure you don't get hurt today, but if Denver wins, this is not the end of the world. So anybody who has an owie, raise your hand.
And there's gonna be the narrative out there too, and I don't really buy into this, but there will be the narrative out there that whoever emerges out of Baltimore and Buffalo will probably give it 150% in that game and get beat up after that game. It's such an important game that maybe there who knows how much there's going to be left in the tank when you have to go to Kansas City. I don't really buy into that too much, but I know that's probably going to be out there. It would come at this point next week.
Yeah, I think so. So we'll see. I think I can't wait for the Ravens and Bills game. I can't wait. We're not going to have time to talk about Ohio State and Notre Dame, but I'll have you pick it before we go. We're not going to have time to dive into it because we spent too long talking about bullshit. But that's what, again, blank canvas, man. Blank canvas.
That's right.
I've approached this new year.
We still have a little bit of time.
We do, but I don't want to shortchange your opinions, and we're kind of into this. By the way, Ed Werder tweeted out earlier today that, and believe me, Ed would know that the Cowboys or Deion Sanders is very enamored by the idea of coaching the Cowboys, and Jerry Jones is very enamored with the idea of hiring him.
Yeah.
But until I see Deion and Jerry sitting at the Star together, talking about how this came together, and two brothers from other mothers, reunite, and how, their family and all these other things that would go into the Deion Sanders press conference. It is a publicity stunt because Jerry will do this and then he'll be like, well, it just wasn't the right time for Deion. Wasn't good for him. Just wasn't, we're going to do what's best for the Dallas Cowboys. And, I think Deion's going to be a great coach. It's like a son to me. He had a toe operation. I told him I'll find your toes if you need them. I'll do that for you. But what's best right now for the Dallas Cowboys is this boring milk toast offensive coordinator that I'm going to shove down your throat, or this head coach that's been fired 3 other times, but this is the place he can win it. So
yeah, exactly.
How's my Jerry? 1 to 10.
Yeah, I'd give it
a 7.
7. So I'd put it a 7 for sure.
Yeah. We'll get So yeah, I mean that's what's going to happen. But I'm telling you, just as a Cowboys reporter, I guess I can probably still call myself that in regard to a podcaster and a fan of the team. It's a hamster wheel. Like, at least make it fun, So, Are you familiar with the movie Swordfish, Pierre? With Hugh Jackman and Halle Berry?
Yeah, it was Travolta in that too.
Yeah, he was the bad guy. Yeah, he was the bad guy.
I think I've seen it, but I don't really remember it.
Here's why you'll remember it. There's no reason to remember it.
Oh, there is one. Yeah,
it's a total crap movie.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, and when I say this, I hope my wife and your fiance don't see this.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know if they'll get the metaphor
I think I know where you're going with this too, by
Look,
the way.
If the movie is going to be absolutely terrible, take Halle Berry's top off.
Yeah.
At least give me a reason to watch. Like, I got to be here, so, And the thing is, it's like, I was in my 20s, early 20s when the movie came out. And even then, I thought the marketing was a little bit like, this movie must not be very good if, the one thing they keep telling me is, you're going to get a surprise from Halle Berry. And all it is Hugh Jackman walks out to the pool. Okay. Halle Berry's sunbathing. She's got one of those little sunbathing screens. And then she drops it down and says hello. And they talk for a minute. And then he walks off and talks to John Travolta. And that was the production company of Swordfish saying, look, there's only 1 minute of this movie that anybody would be interested in.
Right.
Or they probably went through all that, and there was probably a scene where it just was Halle Berry clothed, as normal people are most of the time. And they said, look, the only way we're going to get the people out to this movie is if, it's a different time in Hollywood where you could say stuff like that. And then Halle's like, all right, give me a couple more million and, one per guy here, sure. And then you do it. So that's what it is. So Jerry, if you're not going to win Super Bowls, swordfish this thing, man.
Yeah.
Just give me some, because here's the deal. I actually think it's so crazy it could just work. Even though I don't think Deion's ready for the NFL just yet, I think he will be one day. I think he needs just a little bit more, seasoning. But who can talk to a ridiculous egomaniac better than another ridiculous egomaniac?
Yeah.
And one, yeah. And both of them have good hearts. I'll tell you, Jerry has a good heart. He really does. But it's all covered in money, Yeah. Deion has a really good heart. It's all covered in flash and Coach Prime, but he has a really good heart. Yeah. So, if you put those two things together, maybe, just maybe, it'll be crazy enough to work.
I don't disagree that it could be crazy enough to work. But I'm with you in terms of he needs a little more season, because right now Jerry is 82 years old, 82, 83, something like that. I don't think Jerry has the time to allow Dion to grow into the role. That's I think the biggest issue, because I do think that Dion can be and eventually will be a successful NFL head coach, but I don't think Jerry, I don't, at the risk of sounding morbid here, but as a guy who roots for a team whose owner is 84 years old, your time's ticking and you don't really have a lot of patience. You want to see your team hoist one up. And if a guy is not fully ready, no matter if he's Deion Sanders or not, you're not going to hire him. So yeah. I wouldn't blame Jerry for that. So, but I'm with you though. I think it is crazy enough that it could work.
It's hard because when people tell him these things, like, you don't want to hear, like, hey, Jerry, you got to start taking some risks because you're going to be dead soon. Like, you don't want to hear, like, I'm sure Steven Ross, like you said, hey, Jerry's 82, Steven Ross is 84, you said?
Is that Steve Ross is 84, I believe, yes.
Yeah. Steven Ross is 84. Like, when you tell him, like, hey, you got to start taking some risks because, like, like, if you wait too long, you're not going to be watching this from the stands, if you know what I mean.
Well, and yet Stephen Ross decided to run it back one more year, amazingly enough. It's just insanity to me. So, yeah, I'm with you 100%.
I would take Mike McDaniel in Dallas in a heartbeat.
Well, I know that everybody would take Mike McDaniel as an offensive coordinator. Would you like Mike McDaniel as a head coach? I think that's another discussion that I think needs to be had.
Yeah. Yes, I would.
I mean, you know what? You can have him. You can have him. I've been from day one, from the moment he was introduced, I was like, this guy's not a head coach. He's not a head coach in this league. He's too chummy with his players. He's a great offensive mind. Don't get me wrong. He's a great offensive mind. He's too chummy with his players. He's too loose with it. I don't know if the guys take him seriously. I really don't. I never saw a head coach here, like at least at this stage. Maybe later, but not at this stage.
Yeah, no,
you can have him. You want to trade for him?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll trade for him.
All right.
Yeah, I'll trade for him. Again, look, if you told me right now, if the Jones family came to me and said, Paul, we've been listening, you're our only hope. Like, we get it. Like, you are in charge. We're just going to sit back and write the checks. I'd be like, look, guys, and here's what I would tell them, honestly. Look, you've built the foundation. You've built the house. The outside is beautiful. The inside is beautiful.
Right.
You've got a lot of things, like the marketing is unbelievable. Everybody knows about it. This place is the biggest party in all of sports. Like, not only is it the best sports venue in the world, it's the best concert venue in the world. It's a money machine. I'm surprised that just occasionally $20 bills don't like appear in it.
Yeah.
Like, you're just sitting in a seat and be like, oh, look, there's 20s just falling down. They came from nowhere. Like, that's what I say. Like, all of that is good. You've done all that. That is now self-sustaining. It is self-sustaining. You have a bad year, guess what? Get the Jonas Brothers in here to do 3 shows. Boom, boom, boom. All your problems are solved.
Right.
Oh, you go 11-6 and lose in the second round of the playoffs. Bummer. Like, that's how it works. Like, Taylor Swift comes in and does some shows. It's all fine. The merchandise is going to sell. You're going to have a draft pick that you're going to convince all their fans is going to change everything. His jersey's going to sell. If you send 4 guys who are in the middle of the roster to a friggin' Whataburger, there's going to be a line out the thing. All that is fine. It's self-sustaining. But you need to redecorate, and I'm talking banners and trophies in this room. Yeah. And so, because you've got all that stuff, you've got the star, like, you are the envy of the entire sports world when it comes to everything about you. All that's great. But, just need to redecorate a little bit.
Yeah. And
the only way you can do this is exclusive. Look, Jerry, you're all about exclusive. I can tell you the story about the marble outside. The only way you can get this decorator to come in and bring in that thing, the only decorator is Roger Goodell. And the only reason he brings you the thing is you win it. So you got to go win to get Roger Goodell, interior direct decorator, in there to put up the banner and give you that trophy. That's the only thing that can make this place better.
It sounds like a reality show in the making right here. I just listen to a pitch of a reality show of why you should just be inside. Paul's interior decorations will start out at AT&T Stadium.
You know what? Here's the deal. just year to year, what I will do, like we'll just do seasons of, I will go to different sports franchises that are not achieving their greatness and tell their billionaire owners, here's where you're running into the wall.
Yeah.
It'll be like a reverse undercover boss.
That would be a dream for me to do that to the Dolphins. That would just be a dream. God,
when we get to the Dolphins, I'll be like, this is my assistant Pierre. He has some thoughts.
Yeah, you wouldn't like him when he's mad. You won't like him. I like my dream job is for somebody to hire me at the Dolphins just so I can fire everybody else. That's the job I would be great at. I would be great at firing people. I'd be great at it.
All right. Pierre, thank you so much. Today we've got Shahan Jayaraja. We've got Graham Harrell, college football Hall of Fame inductee or soon to be nominee.
Yep. Can I say one thing about Shahan really quick? I saw him. I was watching him on CBS Sports yesterday, and I DM'd him. I said, dude, look at you, big time. I mean, I know he was writing. He's been writing for them for a long time, but that's really cool to see him because he was just, you and I were there working. He was a young student at the time, and now he's going on to do big things. So congrats to him. That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's been on our show. He's become a regular guest on our show. He's there. Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com.
Theismann.
Oh, yes. Joe freaking Theismann.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. Joe Theismann on the show today. Super excited about that. Commanders in the playoffs, Notre Dame in the championship.
Yeah.
So, Pierre, real quick, we have 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Notre Dame or Ohio State?
Ohio State's going to win the game, but I want Notre Dame to win the game.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah.
Pierre Noujaim, Fox 9, Minneapolis. Paul Catalina, the Triple Option, 365 Sports in an Hour. See you there, everybody.